have got a bunch of things going on. So I started my company actually as a 20-year-old. I started an organic fertilizer company because I got my plant and greenhouse sciences degree from Front Range Community College as a high school student. So I fell in love with agriculture early on, and I just really felt that was where I needed to be. So I've actually been in agriculture since I was 17 years old, officially as my career, and now I'm 36, so it's almost been 20 years of being in professional agriculture. A little background story. I basically started consulting for really large-scale agricultural farms and plots. In 2019, I powered well over 1 million acres of horticulture and agriculture. I bred over 1 billion seeds of 24 unique plant varieties. And I've gone in to do consulting for 5 million square foot greenhouses, all the way, everything in between, right? And so after taking that journey towards big ag, I kind of fell out of love with it because most of the time it wasn't about the plant, it wasn't about the soil, it wasn't about the environment, it wasn't about the people, it was only about the profit. And so I kind of got a little bit disenchanted with big ag because of this. I had a really interesting scenario that happened. I went to a big ag farm, and one of the farmers actually had no vision in his eye because he spilt some fungicide in a tank, and it slopped up and went into his eye, and he lost his vision, and he still felt totally okay with actually putting that stuff onto his plants that people were going to eat. And when that happened, I was like, wow, this model is completely broken. There's not very much education with traditional 2, 3, 4, second, third, fourth generation agricultural farmers, unfortunately, because over time, as a grower, and as humans, I think that we all try to get simpler and cut out fat in our processes and make things more streamlined, cheaper, and that is ag at its current state, that's for sure. So I went the exact opposite way. I created Backyard Farming Supply. Backyard Farming Supply is exactly this. This is my garden at my house. I've got 24 raised beds, fully automated, 100% organic, and I can leave town during the gardening season for a month without needing to worry about my garden. I'll come back to explosive growth. So as I started to bring people into my house and show them what we were doing and the solution that we had to really feed humanity, but also to impact the next generation by teaching them how to do these things, a lot of people just really started to fall in love with backyard farming as a movement. And it's kind of an interesting thing because over the last decade, organic and sustainable went from like, yeah, that's cool, I don't really know much about it, to now it's kind of leading the way in agriculture. And obviously here in Davos, it's one of the main things is sustainability, environmental impact reduction, and a lot of other things. So I'm going to jump in, but we are cultivating a brighter future with Backyard Farming Supply and our educational academy, which is Backyard Farming Academy. So, as I said, Backyard Farming Supply. This is my why, guys. This is 100% my why. I'm super blessed with a beautiful wife and amazing kids, and it's literally my heart, soul, and passion in the world and universe. And it's the reason that I'm here is to give my kids a better future. When I first got with my wife, Kelly, was 16 years ago. And I was like, you start to look at the future when you meet somebody special. And I started to hear all of the 2050 reports for sustainability. And I was like, well, if we ever have kids, like, there's a good chance that they're going to need either a gas mask permanently, or they're going to have to be able to know how to cultivate their own food, because like apples are a perfect example. It's one of the most widely eaten vegetables, but they have more pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides than any other fruit basically applied. There's the big 12, and it's apples, bananas, oranges, and it's the most common things that we eat, but they're oftentimes over-applicated with extremely rough chemicals. So I wanted to be able to provide a solution for my future family, and that's what spawned Key to Life Nutrients, my organic nutrient line that grew from literally $0. I still have 0 partners, no investors, 100% equity on my own. from the garage to a global company. Been really blessed for their support, and I've got a really good team behind me. Unfortunately, none of them could make it here to Davos. But with all of this, as people came over and started seeing my system, there was a clear gap in misinformation or just education in general. So I wanted to be able to create an access point for people to not only learn how to use my products in a better system, but also learn how to steer their situation with their budget for their family with their crops and diet type. So we've created the Seed Starting Blueprint. And the Seed Starting Blueprint is a really exciting course. It took us 11 months to create. It's extremely comprehensive. Some people are like, whoa, dude, this is a little overwhelming, because we came to the table with about 50 hours of presentation. There's about 15 different chapters, and in each chapter, there's up to 8 sub-chapters and lessons. There's about 40 tests and quizzes. There's a 200-page workbook, and there's about 10 ebooks that go along with it, calendars, journals, guides, and this is our first foot forward into the academic education space for backyard farming. Now, since we've created this, we've had an awesome opportunity that we've actually had government officials globally approach us about education. I've been contracted, I'm being contracted currently to be the agricultural professor of Namibia and Africa to help to feed their people. I was just in South Africa last month. And I won the Better World Award from Prince Albert II for sustainability plus technology and impacting food. And it's really just inspired me to continue on this movement. So Backyard Farming Academy and Supply is a movement. And when we look at social media right now, one of the most popular topics, when obviously, there's always politics, and there's always, like, I'll call it brainless entertainment, and there's always that type of stuff. But when we look at backyard farming in general, it is one of the most popular and exploding trends on YouTube right now. Because people, well, I got a question, let's open it up. Who in here is concerned about the future of food? Who's concerned about current food? Who's concerned about availability? What about the ingredients, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, and now the mRNA and GMO breeding tactics that people are bringing in? It is a serious problem, and now a lot of this is coming out. A lot of people forget, when we eat food, we're eating information. And when we eat the wrong information, whether we hear it, whether we see it, or whether we ingest it, it's something that our body has to deal with if it wants to take up or not. And so that's exactly what we're doing with backyard farming. And most importantly, the market opportunity for educating the entire globe about backyard farming and food is a massive trend right now. And we're seeing a massive growing demand and a large market and opportunity to boost property value. And I think that this is one of the biggest ones too. Now, because in the last 5 years, because of the food situation, now one of the biggest property enhancements that you can do in general is actually adding a garden or a backyard farming system. And when I say a backyard farming system, let me back up for a second, because it's not just some boards on the ground with some dirt in it that we put plants into. It's an actual system that has a brain, a nervous system, a distribution system. And what do I mean by that? So first off, purposeful built raised beds with high quality soil so we can maximize deep root crops and massive fruit and veggie yields. But also, it gives us the opportunity to automate. And I think that that's one of the biggest things that's missing in the typical gardening sector right now, is people do not really understand automation. And we all have a busy life. And a lot of times this is actually what reduces people or demotivates them to have their own professional garden. It's money, but it's mostly time. People are like, hey, I don't have that much time in my life. Between social media and parenting and being a significant other and having a job and all the things that we've all got, I'd say we're all stretched on time. So Backyard Farming Supply and Academy is designed for people that don't have much time to be able to maximize their food crop opportunities. It's a potential to foster social and geological equity projects for the entire globe. The global online education market, and obviously this is why I've teamed up with the Ahura guys, is obviously they have a huge focus on digital education from a platform perspective and an AI learning perspective to be able to help students to retain lessons, retain information, continue to progress themselves and want to continue to learn more because of how easy their system is. So I look forward to seeing what we can make happen with Ahura AI and the Backyard Farming Academy, but ultimately the market opportunity is massive. This is data that's been collected from 2020 to 2024, and we've seen over 17.6% growth. And the dollar amount of growth is just increasing like crazy right now for the entire global online education sector. Now, when we look at the educational sector, there are a few people coming to the table with agriculture, but not many. There's a lot of people coming with how to teach people about AI, blockchain, cryptocurrency, Web3, NFTs, and technology. But as we move forward into the next evolution of technology, I want to make sure that we don't forget our foundation, our planet, and our future for our children. And that brings us to the global markets. So I said earlier that I've got key to life supply and key to life nutrients. So one of the main reasons also that we developed Backyard Farming Academy is so that we can teach people how to use tools instead of selling them tools. If we teach them how to use the tools from the get-go, they're going to be a lot more successful with their efforts. I've seen a lot of different grows that didn't have the proper education and opportunity. They would hire me for consulting at $5,000 to $10,000 per day. I would come in, and the level of information that they were at was like 101 or 102, maybe 103 at best, and they're high-end professional agricultural, experts. So when we look at the physical gardening supplies, it really takes the digital education to maximize our efforts. And the physical gardening industry is absolutely exploding. Green city initiatives, obviously, has been talked about here in Davos a lot and with the West. It's at a $20 trillion market cap between now and 2030. And it is an amazing opportunity. Obviously, we're all familiar with the 17 SDGs. I'll get back into that here in a second. But the physical gardening sector combined with the technology sector is trillions in revenue. And it was pretty amazing. Last year when I came here, I had a lot of people that gave us amazing compliments. And they were like, dude, if you get the right funding and the right connections behind this can change the world. And this company should be a $1 trillion company. And that kind of shocked me a little bit, the global impact that we can create through technology and physical gardening products is absolutely astounding. And then we can bring it into global gamification. And this is really how I feel that we access the next generation. Things like even TikTok. TikTok now has the little carrot up on the top left-hand corner. And it's one of the most widespread games for global youth. And it's a farming game that's tied to a social media app. And so when I saw that, I was like, wow, this is the future. And so we've created the Academy, and the Academy is going to be hosted in my metaverse, and my metaverse is called Better World. And I've also created an NFT card game to allow gamification of these efforts and technologies to make it fun, exciting, but most importantly, accessible for anybody, anywhere. There's a lot of kids in Singapore in high-rise apartments that want to know how to be able to sustainably feed themselves, but they don't have land. They don't have a yard. They might have a patio or a countertop, and a lot of times we forget that is even enough space to take care of even potentially a singular dietary supplement, let alone many dietary supplements. I can set somebody up on something as big as this table with a 365 leafy green growing system so that they're falling in love with leafy greens, the fresh flavor, able to harvest them live for their salads or their meals on the spot. And it's just a foot in the door, right? When we get our foot in the door with youth, we can really establish the opportunity for tomorrow. And that's what I'm really all about. So with our NFTs and our metaverse, we're going to be introducing gamification of sustainable and regenerative agriculture that will really inspire the next generation, just like TikTok did with their farming app. And this is my Better World NFT card game. It's a digital card game, and it's kind of spun off from Pokemon, to be honest, because I looked at Pokemon. My son is a huge Pokemon collector. He's 9. Actually, he turned 9 one day before I left for this trip. And he has a crap load of Pokemon cards. And I don't know if you guys are familiar, but Pokemon is the #1 most successful card game on the planet. They've achieved billions in revenue. But that revenue has done nothing good for humanity besides make more cards and give kids an entertainment and access point. I do support that. But what if we could take a card game and we could tie it to awareness, education, philanthropy, and impact-based cause through entertainment? Now we're really cooking with gas. So our initiative that we're launching, I would love to actually host Ahura and some of this as well, is let's say that there's the Spirit Master, or let's say that there's the Tree Master, because it's a little bit easier for us to get. I've actually teamed up with a company out of Brazil that's trying to restore the diversity in the Amazonian basin by growing a wide diversity of trees, plants, introducing insects, animals, and a lot of other things. Well, what if we could create a card game that allowed that company to have their own suite of characters from common to super rare at different price points, and then certain portions of that revenue from the card game or NFT sale went back to directly impacting those companies and their missions. So that's what we've done. We've created a digital card game that allows us to be extremely collaborative with hundreds or thousands of companies, give them a creative outlet to join gamification and really get in front of the next generation through entertainment for sustainability and impact. So that's what Better World is. Originally I was going to have about 400 characters here for Davos, but the holidays kind of got me. What's up?
Can you explain what digital is? I'm assuming it's physical and digital, but
my man, he's got it. So digital is, when I found out about digital, I just instantly fell in love.
you didn't make it up.
No, it was not my thing. Actually, the first entry point that I had to digital was actually through Scott Page, who's the saxophonist for Pink Floyd, and his artist, my good friend that does my art, which is Braden Bugazi. And basically, physics is a physical card that you can scan to have a secondary digital identity. So in this particular case, let's say you scan Spirit Master. It might go on a 5-second video where he's walking around and maybe he goes and jumps in the ocean because he's giving his revenue back to the ocean and an ocean-based company trying to clean up the water, or the tree and regrowing the Amazonian diversity. So it's basically an opportunity for us to bring blockchain, NFTs, and physical cards all together. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, is it pre-programmed or is it interactive?
It's interactive. Yeah, so it's interactive, and as children or adults get different characters, it will unlock further products and technologies inside the metaverse, and it will also unlock additional education. So as we continue to get people involved, now we've got an opportunity for them to learn more about their garden that they can build in my metaverse completely digitally before they go to real life and throw away money, run into massive failure, and ultimately potentially kill their mojo a little bit because now they've got a bunch of dead plants and like, maybe I'm not a good gardener. Maybe I've got a brown thumb. Well, even me, I'm extremely green thumbed, but if you took my system away from me, I would probably be killing plants because I'm always traveling. I'm always doing stuff with the family, and I can't be there 24/7 like a traditional farmer. That's what farming traditionally takes is 24/7 effort. So, did that answer your question?
Then I have a lot of follow-up questions we'll be asked
100%.
later.
Yeah. 100%.
I wanted to be relevant.
Oh, you're fine. I love it. So obviously we talked about the problems, and the problems are food quality and food security, but also soil degradation and how it's impacted our planet. It takes Mother Nature 500 to 1,000 years to create a true top 1-inch layer of topsoil that has full microbial, fungal, and soil food web diversity. So by getting rid of big ag, and decentralizing it into households, we can solve two huge problems aside from everything else that we've talked about. Number one, we can keep our trees and we can keep our land a lot more intact. Big ag has been one of the largest environmental catastrophes, especially in places like the Amazonian tree basin. Hey, let's go rip a bunch of it down and let's start growing canola oil trees on mass scale. And that ultimately limits biodiversity and minimizes the regenerative aspect of Mother Nature. So, but it also leads to poor soil, poor nutrition. And so when we look at the urban setting, does anybody know the number one crop grown on the planet? Anybody?
Corn,
Corn, soy,
rice.
wheat, rice. It's lawns. Lawns and grass. Literally, lawns is the number one crop grown on the planet. And when we look at the point source contamination from a lawn, it is a catastrophe. Because when you are a lawn and turf company, they basically use the most nasty pesticides, herbicides, fungicides in the game. They also use some of the worst NPK or salt-based petroleum-derived chemicals. And because of how widespread lawns are, we're literally basically poisoning the entire planet on its entire surface area because of lawns. For what purpose? To run around in for a little bit with our families? To let the dog pee and poop in it? I just don't think that that's very much worth it. So what backyard farming is all about is teaching people that they can rip all that stuff out, put it in a backyard farm, but now going back to what we were talking about earlier, it's going to increase your property value by about 80% of the dollars that you put into your backyard farming system. So I've got the Ferrari backyard farming system at my house. I put $125,000 into my backyard farm. Kind of a large expense and investment, but at the end of the day, I went way crazy with it, and I went to the next level because it's my little mad scientist workshop. But let's say that you put 10 grand into your backyard farm. Well, now $8,000 of it is actually going to go toward the appraisal value of your house. So the beautiful thing about backyard farming versus traditional agriculture is there's no real need for return on investment. The return on investment with backyard farming is feeding your family, having access to food, having conscious awareness of what's in and on your food, so you know you're making the best choices. It's a huge thing, and we bring a lot of solutions, whether they're physical or technological, to the plate. I'm sure you guys have kind of gathered some of the things that are up on the screen now. We want to educate generations to be able to feed themselves and why the current system is broken. We want to empower people to be self-sufficient. We want to develop green cities and communities globally with the UAE or Singapore or in South Africa or Namibia or in South America or even let alone in Denver, Colorado, my own backyard. This is a global trend, and ultimately we're seeing it really empower and improve the health of humanity. And the technology behind it is a perfect opportunity to bring everything that is being talked about here in Davos all day, every day. Web3, blockchain, crypto, track and trace, and the next level of technology into sustainable agriculture. This is really going to stimulate people around the food to create their own solutions for their own health issues. And how does that really go back to what one of the largest things here in Davos is? The 17 Sustainable Developmental Goals. And actually, I've got something really exciting to announce today. So obviously, we're all familiar with the 17 Sustainable Developmental Goals for humanity. And no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, affordable clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry, innovation, and infrastructure, and reduced inequities, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, climate action, life below water, life on land, peace, justice, and strong institutions, and partnerships for the goals. But you know what? There's one thing missing. So I am proud to say that I am making a proposal for an 18th SDG. This is a really groundbreaking place to be able to make this proposal. I wish we had the writers and founders of the SDGs in the room. It'd be a lot more exciting. But, it is what it is. But I still think that this is the proper location and setting to propose an 18th SDG. And what is that? It is bringing along Web3, crypto, AI, blockchain, and all the technological advancements that are being talked about all day, every day, into all the other 17 Sustainable Developmental Goals. And everybody's like, well, where would we put it? You know where it needs to go? In the middle. Because all of the other Sustainable Developmental Goals will be much more efficient and optimized, bringing cutting-edge technology to the game. So I am Tate Dooley. I am proposing the 18th SDG here in Davos at the World Economic Forum.
Would you mind pointing to the center again?
Yes.
Thank you. Would you mind repeating
Yeah.
the proposal? Please?
Thank you. No, I really appreciate that. So I'm Tate Dooley with Backyard Farming Supply and Backyard Farming Academy, and I'm proud to announce that I am proposing an 18th SDG to really maximize and optimize all of the other sustainable developmental goals, because all of those goals will be much more efficient and optimized if we bring along Web3, blockchain, cryptocurrency, AI, metaverse, and other technological advancements that are being talked about all day, every day. And we continue to welcome these technological advancements into the Sustainable Developmental Goals for humanity. Thanks, guys.
I'm going to add a new segment. You have to put risk AI in it.
Risk AI.
We'll connect your 18 to the other 17.
Exactly. That's why I think it's perfect as a central wheel, right?
Yeah.
When we look at radial engines, it's always an odd number. So that was one of my first places I went. I was like, well, you can't put it anywhere else. And then I was like, well, it belongs in the middle.
So it really comes down to interactivity, interconnectivity, and also optimization of the what you need to do as a core to get the rings to operate. And that's one of the principles we're trying to team up with and collaborate with colleagues out here.
Awesome. I love it. I look forward to chatting more too.
Yeah.
And keep your questions coming. You've got amazing stuff.
I may have to fly to Korea.
Hey, please do. I extend the invitation to any of you, not all at once, but anywhere from early August to late September. Give me some heads up. I'd like to host you guys at my house, because when you come to my house, it is seeing is believing. When you can, you guys bring the kids too. when you are able to step into a garden when you pull up out front, you're like, I thought you had a farm, man. What's up? I thought you had a farm. And then you go to my backyard and I've got 100 different types of beans, 80 different types of pepper, 80 different types of tomato, 20 different types of strawberry, 36 different types of leafy green. And I grew over 12 different types of squash, 6 different types of okra. The list goes on and on. I was actually able to maximize about 450 varieties of plants in my fifth of an acre. And furthermore, when you look at some of the yields that we pull off through automation and constant fertilization, through organic optimization and true biological based crops, where the yields absolutely dominate commercial agriculture. I pulled 2,200 pounds of tomatoes on a 10-foot by 12-foot space. Yeah, it is. When you are able to come to a garden with that type of diversity and experience a black strawberry tomato or a pineapple tomato or a mango peach tomato, it really opens people's eyes, because I'll say it, I have never been to any restaurant, I don't care the price tag, that is coming out with a plate that has more than 2 types of tomatoes, let alone my tacos, or what we like to call Tegan's tacos, which is my son, that has 80 different tomatoes and 80 different types of pepper in one taco blend.
Not even Blue Hill restaurant does that, right?
Nobody, literally nobody. You cannot find it. I challenge somebody. And so I think that this is actually where the restaurant industry is going too. Because if restaurants put greenhouses and small micro gardens and true diversity upon their extra space or in their local ag area that they can have access to the crops, now we're really going to be able to stimulate humanity with delicious flavors that's going to make them look at the grocery store in a completely different manner. What's up, Claire?
Do those spaces does it have to be outdoors? Can you do it indoors?
Indoors as well. So yeah, like indoor for hydroponics or aeroponics. My entire seed starting room, which is our first course, is the seed starting blueprint, actually takes place indoors. So I cultivate all my seeds inside because I want to be in the most controlled environment possible, and then slowly introduce them to the outdoor environment, so that by the time they get outside, they're acclimated, ready to boost, and now they're in the true Mother Nature set.
Are they in the clean room environment, or they're not?
Yeah, my grow rooms are clean rooms through a bunch of different types of technology, through special types of water, special ionization of air, traffic protocol, knowing when to go in the room and when not to, and a lot of other things. Yeah, wearing cover, making sure that you're clean when you go in. Now, that's another big problem in commercial agriculture, is to get 50 or 500 employees onto that mentality of like, don't go from the sick plants to the clean plants is a very difficult thing. So that's another area. When you cultivate your own food from your own seeds and your own property, right off the bat, you're going to have about 90% less pest and disease issues, because there's this thing called bioaccumulation. And when you've got a giant greenhouse and it's got several different lifelines of plants continuing to grow, and you've got baby plants right next to grandpa plants and everything in between, and you do that for generations on generations, now you've had bioaccumulation of different types of pests and different types of diseases that directly affect your crop. Also, it reduces the need for an integrated pest management system. Traditional horticultural farm and agricultural operation cannot operate successfully with successful harvest without a really good integrated pest management plan, because of the amount of plants and the amount of stages of life. When we bring it into our own hands, we don't have that. Well, maybe we do, depending on the environment, but we have a lot more control. We've got at least 95 to 99% more control of minimizing pest and disease on our crops.
Do you actually ship the seeds, or the actual individuals grow their own seed nursery.
Yeah. So the seed starting blueprint empowers people to be able to start their own seeds. And actually,
Oh, cool.
here.
Well, that's a big problem, isn't it, with all the Monsanto seed stuff that's been happening?
Yeah, they're already genetically.
Yeah, 100%. That's the other thing is now you've got full control of the varieties that you're bringing into your garden. The reason that when you go to the grocery store across the entire world, it's always beefsteak tomatoes and Roma tomatoes and green peppers is because those things are the most mass-grown GMO crops that can withstand the pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides. I have a quick question. Why did they GMO? Do you guys know? Anybody know the reason for GMO?
To make them very disease resistant.
But through what?
Through genetically changing the fabric, making less productive, regenerative.
It's actually
I think it's to make the plant resistant to the chemicals that only kills the pest.
Yep, there it is.
Oh, is that right?
That's exactly it. Yeah. So basically,
Say it again.
What the reason that they genetically modified plants is because they wanted to design a plant that could withstand the pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides. It's not necessarily that it's a better genetic or it's a more productive genetic. That genetic is just better at withstanding toxic chemicals. So a lot of times they'll breed them in a way that chemical cannot actually be accepted by the plant, and it will kill off the weeds, but it doesn't kill the other crop. This is the term Roundup Ready crops. So if you've got a Roundup Ready corn or soy, it's ready to be sprayed with a crap load of Roundup.
And also the key thing to understand is that what that chemical does is it actually explodes the stomach of the pests.
Yep.
So it cracks open the cell walls of the weeds of the plants. So
And it's also a neurotoxin.
imagine what it's doing inside the bodies of the
So
children.
that
the cells.
effectively it has to have an impact on our biometrics.
Exactly. And it affects a lot of gut health.
Yep.
So which is why you have a lot of illness today and chronic illness.
Yeah, Claire is super on point. And one of the particular gut issues that GMO brings to humans is the proliferation of a certain type of bacteria. And it's BT, or Bacillus thuringiensis. And this BT is actually a very prolific and combative microorganism. Our healthy gut is all about diversity. BT eliminates diversity, and over time, it bioaccumulates inside of your gut system, and it reduces our ability to break down food.
Does that also cause obesity also, or?
It causes obesity. It causes... Disclaimer! I am not a doctor. I do not make any claims. I do not want to get sued with any of the next statements, but it causes diabetes. It causes heart disease. It causes cancer. It causes autism. It causes all of the problems that are running rampant throughout human health and society nowadays are mostly because of the biological properties and the chemical properties that we pick up from GMO-based crops because of the pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides that have been applied to them their entire life.
So the fundamental understanding is that your gut is your primary, your first line of defense.
That's where it's factory.
So if the cells and the walls are being destroyed, then there's not a great platform to begin with, no matter what your genetic background is.
It's interesting. I think there was a study about tomatoes causing obesity, and most likely because of the saying, if you're eating a lot of tomatoes, you end up actually gaining a lot of weight, even though you think you're just a vegetarian.
Yeah.
But anyway, and there's a guy who's got a ton of tape showing that if you cut just tomatoes or certain vegetables, you actually lose weight.
Yep.
I'm just honoring the sister. I have to leave like 12 minutes. I want to do a Q&A, or is there something I wanted to?
Yeah. Do you have a question?
Yeah. So first of all, do you do any work in China?
I would be open to. I have not yet. I was actually approached by a couple of universities of China when I was in the plant breeding and genetics realm. to team up with them to create new varieties in China. But
So my mother and I, we have one of the oldest NGOs in China, 40 years.
Nice.
And we have educated over 200,000 girls. And we now are working with 200 villages, actually coinciding with the Chinese mandate, which is always a good thing to be in alignment.
What's the name of it? I didn't think there were many NGOs in China. I go often. Used to go. Yeah.
Yeah, we're called Zigen Fund, and we are registered.
Sorry, what is it called?
that's awesome.
Zigen, we are registered under the Ministry of Education, and we work right now. We have a huge 2-year project with the rural education adult training program, and just a few months ago we trained 800 village heads to understand how to actually to create sustainable rural development. So China has over the last 15 years done probably the largest demographic shift, shifting what was 70% of agrarian society to 60%. And that is bringing up this huge shift of population, but now many of them are being shifted back to villages, natural villages that have died. And so we're now providing the framework, and I just the problem is most of the youth don't want to work in farms, but parents have spent their entire career pushing the kids to work, and the kids are like, and I think that is reflecting a world problem, and I'm interested in our case, if we have 200, possibly thousands of villages that could actually implement to showcase. And we're working with UNESCO and Sustainable Development in Southeast Asia, to go to Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam. These are all naturally small-scale farms. And I think this would be really, I'm looking at the next generation to continue the heritage. What you're talking about is wonderful, but I'm witnessing the actual disintegration of centuries of knowledge and talent, pharmaceutical to clothing, the cultural. So anyway, so that's.
Yep. I agree.
So I'm not looking for, and I just love. And I was just wondering how Ahurai works to combine. You need every type of everything to counter the mindless consumption of things, and so I'm just getting a very realistic market, and so
I would love to join up with you on that. Actually, after Davos, Manesh and Ahura and Backyard Farming Academy are going to be bringing their AI language simulator to my course, and we've got like 3 languages that we're focusing on next: Chinese, Japanese, Mandarin, and Spanish. So 4 languages that we're focusing on next, because we realize how much of the population of the world we're going to be able to access, but also then be able to impact them. So I would love to team up with you on that. Like for the Seed Starting Blueprint is all about giving anybody access to literally planting the seed in their mind and in their garden of the opportunity that they've got.
yeah.
So.
And then just one side question to who's Ahura? So I'm looking at my own initiative is actually to create a gamified way of learning Chinese.
Nice.
This is Chinese and the youth, but again using this system and indirectly introducing some of the Asian culture and the cool. This is what anime has done in a way, but bring in this platform, just greater communication.
Yeah.
As we know, what the media today is.
Within China or outside China?
Well, this is targeting Chinese outside of China.
Oh, you mean the Chinese language, people who want to adopt it.
Anybody who'd like to use some Chinese, Chinese is not an easy language.
Right? I'm a dumb American. I only know 1 language.
I just wanted to
Yeah, it's called green.
No, that is amazing. I would love to chat with you and see how we can team up.
I just wanted to. I'm here to learn. I'm trying to not reinvent the wheel.
Right.
So many people wanting to do things and just trying to get to something that could accelerate this. Otherwise, is a loss.
Yep,
Yeah.
I agree.
Is a loss.
Honestly, it's another reason that we created the academy, because there's so much information is vanishing from even the internet on how to be able to feed ourselves. I wonder where it is. I'll take my foot off that soapbox before I stand on it. But you know, so obviously we all see the humanity impact. And one of the biggest things, unfortunately, that it takes for projects to go global is revenue, right? So you gotta have impact, but if it doesn't make dollars and it doesn't make sense, then you're gonna be swimming up a waterfall the whole time. So with global education, what's up?
No, nothing. I was going to say the premium you can get in Singapore, New York, London, Paris is unbelievable. Blue Hill Farm in New York is tomato salad will cost you $40.
I know, isn't that crazy?
And because it's just you get it right from the farm, right from there. The one that you actually go to the farm, that's an hour away, but they also have in Soho a small place. So there is definitely premium. For those that people who are money oriented, especially bringing into the populated urban settings, they definitely get picked up by the shops.
Yeah.
Might be fun to form a little ongoing discussion group of anybody who's here today,
Yeah.
like a little online group.
Yeah, I would definitely
so-
WhatsApp.
I was
China.
actually going to say that's a perfect segue. You're literally reading my mind, Jim. That's awesome. So I've got a webinar that I do every Thursday. I'm not doing it this Thursday because I'm here in Davos, but I will be having one next week. And I'm just really trying to grow the community and bring as many people as we can into this conversation. We're doing a podcast, and if any of you guys want to reach out and be a guest on the podcast or bring a topic to the podcast, degradation of ancient knowledge around agriculture is a really important topic, right? And we need to get out ahead of that issue and educate why we need to have intact information from the old school for our agricultural practices, because they are manipulating the information to the commercial chemical pesticide, herbicide, and fungicide model, and that is a big problem.
I still sense of helplessness. And 10 years ago in China, Monsanto was already buying up all these little villages, farmers, and we speak to them. And then it's commercial. They have no choice.
Yep.
They have to buy the seed. They have to buy pesticide. Otherwise, so I as wonderful as we are here doing so, I'm tired of talking. I just feel act. So
I'm action. I'm action.
To speak to that, I've been hearing for the last 5 years that the 5 biggest families in America are quietly trying to organize these resources. They don't want to go public on it. I just saw somebody yesterday who told me they don't want to go public on it to do organic farming and sustainable. So you got to watch for these initiatives that are happening, but they don't want to be a target, I guess.
In Canada, there was a family that put in $30 million gamified, almost like the X Prize. And as a matter of fact, we participated, but we didn't know you were existing here. Otherwise, we would have brought you in. A Singaporean biogenomics, which is not genetic engineering, it's crossing plants,
Hybridization.
which is a lot different. So I think there's definitely a way going on. It's just that I think there's a lot more hope going forward than backward.
So
So
I
don't be
I
disappointed.
agree.
should just make it so. I live in Singapore.
Yes.
Singapore Core 2050. They are going to be self-reliant on food and water.
Of course. Yeah,
The problem with that is there's no ownership for the individual. But
Of course.
it's super effective. I know Singapore's going to make it work. But I am concerned more about our future generation.
Yeah, you want to bring it to the masses.
The ownership and the control. This is humanity. It's not about efficiency. Great, that's my two.
Sure.
So I'd love to be part of I'm curious for you. So what's your ask? What are you looking for
Thank
to make you?
Ah,
To make, what
you. She
is
jumped straight to the point.
Yeah.
I like it.
A blank check.
Yeah.
So just to give you a little outlook about what we're doing. So I'm going for my first round of fundraising ever, which is pretty exciting. I'm a 16-year entrepreneur, and like Brian was talking about the other day, he'd rather work with a CEO who's failed time and time again and got back up and is too stubborn to give up than a technologist that is able. You know, a technologist that only tries one time, fails one time, and moves to the next thing. I've had my ass kicked and I've had my victories. But so basically, to your question, we're going after our first round of investment, which is actually all about the technology and the education. I've got 8 more core courses that I'm coming out with. My first is the Seed Starting Blueprint, and my last is food prep, cooking, storage, and everything in between. So those are the core 8 courses that I'm going to be coming to the table with, and the 4 languages that I discussed. And then we've got about 50 quests after that, specific niche things that are much less overwhelming, much smaller, easier to complete 1 to 3 hour mini courses on how to maximize tomato harvest, or how to increase pollinators on our property, or how to use companion planting better, or why AI and Mother Nature together, right? So there's going to be a bunch of really cool things. And then round number 2 is my carbon sequestration technologies and patents and development of further products. So I actually have a team for X Prize for the Elon Musk carbon sequestration competition. I spent about 6 years of my life going after biochar. Who knows what biochar is? Jim. So biochar is actually a form of carbon that is created through pyrolysis or oxygen-free burning, which keeps the structural integrity of the feedstock. Let's say it's a tree. It keeps it just black and no white ash, so it's still completely intact. But now this biochar, for every teaspoon that we introduce into soil, has a football field of surface area for beneficial microbials to grow on. It also has the same surface area for organic nutrient retention and organic acid retention. And there's a lot of really cool ways that we can affect water, air, and soil with biochar to help reduce hydrocarbons in our atmosphere. And then round 3 is we're going to copy and paste, showcase properties all around the globe, so people have a local access point to come taste the food, get inspired, do classes, and learn from local instructors. So our first round, to answer your question, sorry, what's your name, ma'am? April. So our first round is actually 7.75 is what we're going after. And the 3 rounds of funding are here. So for round number 1 is 7.75, round 2 is 35.9, and round 3 is 42.75. Brings us to a little bit over 100 million, but hey, 100 million has been spent in a lot worse ways in humanity, that's for sure. So this can be a direct investment into the sustainability of our future. And guys, I'm gonna say it, I don't ever really say things like this, but it's action time. I need your help now, or it's going to be too late.
Woo! So sorry.
So hang on, wait. Hang on. Thank you. This is the last slide.
The one before your funding. Did you have a mouse?
Oh yeah. So this is immediate. This can be accomplished within the next 3 months.
That's April.
April, and that's perfect timing for the season.
3 months, January, April. It must be April.
Just for spring planting.
Right. This can be accomplished by the end of summer, and this is our 24-month plan. So all three within the next 24 months, pretty realistic. I could probably speed this up a good amount depending on the connections people have, because it's all about the connections, right? Like even teaming up with Ahura just to allow a multilingual access point is obviously a much faster implementation for humanity for access. So really, really big opportunity. And just wanted to say, let's join the revolution together with my three companies, Backyard Farming Supply, Backyard Farming Academy, and my fund that I'm launching, Green Life Capital, and how we can team up with Ahura to allow not only their AI language translation, but also a true platform that encourages people to continue learning. This is really where I was going to hand it over to Brian, but Manesh, if you want to come up and say anything here, I'd welcome you. Oh, yeah.
Well-
And is Green Life Capital the 100 million? That's a separate thing?
This is my fund, and I would accept the 100 million into it all at once if you want to, or we can go in tranches.
That's